Hello, and welcome to the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. These usually come out on Mondays, so if you're listening to me on your commute to work on a Monday morning, well, if you're driving, this is the problem I have when I try to listen to a podcast when I'm driving somewhere, depending on what the topic is, but if it's like a comedy podcast that doesn't require a lot of like mental CPU cycles to actually like listen to, then it's fine. I watched Formula One, motor racing. Don't worry, we're not going to get into that. Where I listened to the F1 podcast where they go into analysis of the races and the predictions. And for that kind of stuff, I actually need to like pay attention to what is said. For those, I can't put those on when I'm driving because I'm too focused on driving to really actually listen to the words being said. Never mind if it's like a deeper topic. So I can only do light comedy type podcasts. Well, if it was a bumper to bumper like rush hour traffic and I'm not really like moving anywhere, I'm just like sitting in traffic, that's a little different. If it's that type of, if you're sitting in traffic right now, I think you can keep listening. But if you're not sitting in traffic and driving, maybe you don't. Anyways, what we're going to do today, we're going to do a quick Atlantis calendar update. The calendar of all the cruises coming up for the rest of the year. There are some minor updates. I want to keep everybody updated on how well the cruises are selling, just in case if you were open to booking a cruise upcoming later this year. I'm just going to let you know which ones you might want to jump on sooner rather than later because they're nearly sold out. What are some of the ones that are maybe a decent value? Just a light update, nothing super deep. And then I'm going to follow it up to round out today's podcast with going through some of the more recent comments on my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. And remember, if you have any questions, any curiosities about anything cruise or travel or party related, I should talk about some gay parties on this podcast eventually. Yeah, just comment on any one of my YouTube videos that will pop up on my little YouTube dashboard and I will see them. All right, let's get started with the Atlantis update. I'm going to do this chronologically, and the next cruise that's coming up is over Memorial Day weekend, May 23rd to the 29th. This is 6 nights, sailing out of Miami, Florida, also coming back to Miami. So this is over Memorial Day weekend. There are quite a few rooms left. If you heard me talk about this cruise before, they didn't have a lot of time to sell this cruise, Atlantis, for whatever reason. And there are a good selection available. There are even a small number of junior suites available. Usually suites are the first type of rooms to sell out right away on just about any cruise. And it's not the case for this one for a couple of different factors. But if you were really interested in the suite experience, these are junior suites. I saw a couple of junior suites that were available. So I'm recording this for this particular cruise on the Virgin Valiant Lady. That's the cruise ship this one's going on. This is maybe one of the few chances where you can actually experience what a suite is like on any of the Atlantis cruises. Like I said, on most Atlantis cruises, the suites are just sold out right away. And they've lowered the price on this before. I don't think there's a recent price drop since the last time I talked about it back in March. But again, if you were looking to try out a cruise, maybe you haven't been on a cruise before, you have, those dates are free on your calendar. You don't have any Memorial Day weekend plans. I think this one could be quite a good one to try out as your first Atlantis cruise. I predict it's not going to be like too crazy for a first timer. It's 6 nights, which is a good length. They just announced that Bianca Del Rio and Monet Exchange will be on the cruise as some headline performers. So if you are a fan of some of the drag race queens, that's another sweetener for you to look into that one. It is coming up pretty soon. I think we're about 4 weeks away from the set sail date. And usually you can't book a cruise like when it's like really close. When you're within about 3 or 4 days of the cruise, usually they have a cutoff for when the passengers list has to be finalized with the cruise lines and the ports and everything. But I would say you still have a few more weeks left to look into that one. So yeah, there you go. Next one is Barcelona to Lisbon. So this is the European cruise in July from the 13th to the 22nd, 9 nights. And this one's nearly sold out. The other cruise in Europe, the August cruise in the Mediterranean, that's sold out for a while. So if you really wanted to go on an Atlantis cruise in Europe, this is the only option. It is nearly sold out, and I predict that it will sell out pretty soon. There are a small number of balcony rooms left if you are interested in hopping across the Atlantic and taking a cruise over there. Moving on, Halloween cruise over the Caribbean, October 25th to November the 1st. 7 nights, sailing from and back into Miami, Florida on another Virgin Voyages ship, this time the Brilliant Lady. It's going to go to Key West, Dominican Republic, Grand Turks and Caicos, and Bahamas. It's filling up pretty nicely, this one. I think it will eventually sell out. I think it'll probably sell out if I had to kind of put my educated guess on it. Maybe once we get into like June, July, I think maybe July-ish, give or take. I think possibly that's when it's going to be sold out or very nearly so. But right now, there's still a decent number of balcony rooms left. And then there's a small bit of ocean view rooms that are a little bit cheaper. But usually, most people tend to go for the balcony rooms. If you were interested in the Halloween cruise, they do have a Halloween cruise every year. Every year, it's been on the West Coast, sailing from somewhere in SoCal down to Mexico. This year, they couldn't get a ship out of the West Coast for October or over Halloween. So they're just trying something out of Miami. But usually the October cruise, when it was on the West Coast pretty much every other year, has been very reliable, very good for first-timers, not intense, but there's still like good attendance at the parties, for example. So it's kind of a little bit of something for everyone. They haven't done an East Coast cruise for the Halloween one before. So there's a little bit of uncharted territory, if you will. However, given how well it's been selling, how well the rooms are being snapped up, I'm optimistic that this one is going to be a pretty good one as well. I think this is also another one where it will be really good for first-timers if it lines up with your vacation schedule from work or whatever it is. The October one historically has always been really, really fun and one of the ones I really recommend for first-timers. So we'll see what it's like this year out of Miami. Moving on to November, there is an Asia cruise from Hong Kong to Singapore, November 16th to the 28th. So that's 12 nights on a celebrity ship called the Solstice. Several stops in Vietnam and Thailand. Bangkok, for example, there's an overnight. Hanoi, there's an overnight. This one is mostly sold. It's not like nearly sold out, but it's like filling up-ish. All the 3 main types of rooms are still available. So you have your ocean balconies, you have your ocean view, which is like a window that looks at the ocean, and you also have the interior rooms. But especially there seems to be quite a few different types of ocean balcony rooms available. I feel like with this one, if you were interested, you probably would have booked it anyways. Otherwise, you're probably not going to book it. Going all the way over to Asia, and the fact it's a 12 nights cruise is a longer one, so kind of a bigger commitment. If you don't live in Asia, let's say you live in North America, for example, to have to fly over there and fly back, that's like that adds on at least like a couple of days travel. So you're going to be out at least 14 days, basically. And chances are you're not going to try to get there just in time to take the cruise. You might spend maybe a day in Hong Kong before you hop on a cruise, and maybe you spend like a day in Singapore after you come back from the cruise before you fly home. So, it's a little bit more of a time investment. So that's why I kind of say the people that are going to go on this one, they booked it already, or they're probably not going to book. But if you are interested, all the different room types, the main room types are all still available. The final cruise that I know some of you have been waiting for details on is not in 2025, it's in 2026. It's actually going to be in February of 2026. That's going to be on the Symphony of the Seas from Royal Caribbean. That's going to be the quote-unquote big party cruise, or quote-unquote the big one for 2026 in classic, typical Atlantis style. Back like 3 or 4 weeks ago, they said that the details for that one would have been out by now. It's not. So I wasn't holding my breath, but like I had promised before, and the promise is still on, once I have details on the Symphony cruise, the party cruise for February 2026, I will do a podcast episode all on it. You will not miss that one. Do not worry. Hey, when was the last time you really took care of your skin? The skin is the largest organ in the whole human body and is doing so much for you. It protects you from germs and cooties. It keeps you warm when you're cold. It keeps you cool when you're hot. It's making vitamin D. It gives you the gift of touch and sensation. And that's just scratching the surface, so you better take care of it. I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone, so that you can serve fun while serving face. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. All right, onto some Q&A and onto some comments from various YouTube videos from my YouTube channel, Just Joey T. And since we're talking about that, the video version of every episode of this podcast is available on that YouTube channel. So if you don't think it's annoying enough to listen to my voice, you want to look at me at the same time, you can go on YouTube and subject yourself to that torture if you wish. Anyways, here we go. I'm going to try to pronounce some of these usernames, but most of these usernames are not pronounceable. Anyways, this first one is from Treeceh, Treeceh. I have no idea how to pronounce that. But they write, we just booked our first Atlantis cruise from Hong Kong to Singapore, so the Asia cruise I just talked about. Since it is a 12-day cruise, how many theme party outfits should I plan on? Also, do you think it is still going to be 20 drink tickets? So I'm going to talk about the how many party outfits should you plan on. So for a cruise of this length, which is a little bit longer, there will be some nights. There'll be 2 nights on this particular cruise where it's doing an overnight. There's going to be overnight in Hanoi, and there's going to be an overnight in Bangkok. On those 2 nights, it's likely that there's not going to be a themed party going on. Theme parties will probably be on the nights where they don't think a lot of people are going to leave the ship, or will be on the sea day where no one's leaving the ship. So that already kind of cuts a couple of the nights out from any kind of themed parties. There are also parties that are not themed that they will likely have as well. There's going to be probably, because they haven't announced all the parties yet, there will probably be a welcome party on the first night where it's not officially themed, but, you know, unofficially it's an underwear party, so just pack some nice underwear for that. There's usually the Atlantis Classics party, which is not themed in terms of outfits, but it's themed around music from some recent decades gone by, like 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So that's what the Atlantis Classics party is all about. You can just wear whatever, so there's no like outfit theme for that one. The last dance happens on the last night. No theme for that one either. So there's some parties where there's not going to be a theme. For this particular sailing, I think there'll be about 6 or 7 nighttime parties that will have a outfit theme. And then there's probably going to be around 3 tea dances. And tea dances are usually themed. So there's like military, the Dr. Tea dance has a military theme. There's going to be the disco tea dance, usually the last one. That's the disco theme. And they'll squeeze in at least one more tea dance as some sort of theme, and for those they kind of rotate through. So I would say plan on about 10 or 11 party outfits if you're gonna have a different outfit for all of them. This will include underwear for the welcome party. This will also include like the white party. They will have a white party, you just wear white. So I'm gonna say think about 10 or 11 parties where there would be an outfit theme. And also, do you think it's still gonna be 20 drink tickets? So if they do drink tickets on this cruise, and it's not 100% guaranteed that they do this, because usually the drink tickets, they have to work with the cruise line and that particular ship, the staff that's on it, and the systems that are available on that ship. On this particular cruise, this is on the Celebrity Solstice. I think they have done drink tickets on the Celebrity ships before. And traditionally, when they do the drink tickets, they are usually in packages of 20 tickets. So if you want to buy drink tickets, they have historically sold them in packs or lots of 20. If you were asking, will there be 20 drink tickets included as part of your fare? That one, I really don't know, because on the Allure cruise from this past February, that was on the Royal Caribbean ship, so that was this year's kind of the big one / big party cruise. They did do this thing where everybody got X amount of drink tickets as part of their standard fare. So they were not like extra cost. You just got them. And they got, I think they were 42 drink tickets per stateroom. So if you had one person who had a stateroom all to themselves, they would get 42 drink tickets. It was double occupancy, which is what most people do, where there's two people to a stateroom, then each person, if you just divide it up, would be 21 drink tickets. So if you're asking if there's going to be 20 drink tickets included or some number of drink tickets included with your fare, they just did that for the first time on that Allure cruise from a few months ago. I am not sure they're going to do that for every single cruise. This is something that they might not even have made a decision on yet, so therefore I wouldn't know. But if you were to look into if you were looking to buy drink tickets, assuming they offer them, and I think they would offer them if they could, they have done it on celebrity ships before, they do usually sell them in lots of 20s. There you go. Next, this is more a comment. This is from lol5390. Loving the GCTP. Thank you. It could make for an interesting episode to interview somebody who just went on their first Atlantis cruise and get an honest review from a first-timer's perspective. That is actually something I've kind of sort of thought about in the back of my head, but basically the idea is I would want to get like a few, not just one. I want to get like a very small panel of people that have recently went on a Atlantis cruise and kind of just do like a small group chat, just have like a conversation. And that way I get to highlight how not just the experience that first timers have, but I also want to highlight how different people can have different experiences. So if you would like to volunteer to be part of this panel, reach out to me. I think I would love to do it when it's a cruise that I've also been on. And I think if I were to execute the idea, I would kind of want to, I'm gonna even look for people like on board like this. I think it would work the best to do an interview like that if I was also on the same cruise that they were on, so that I really know kind of the things they're talking about. It's a little bit weird to interview people when they're talking about a particular cruise. If I wasn't on it, then some of the particulars are going to be like maybe something happened on the cruise and I didn't understand. So yeah, we'll see when my next cruise is. Think. And then I would love to kind of execute the idea. So I kind of did have a concept for how that would work. I would love to get like 3 different people, for example, and then kind of get them all into this like little group chat type of a thing on Zoom or whatever, and have like a small little group interview. But we'll see. If you're interested in that, let me know. But again, I will kind of want to do it on a cruise that I was also on along with them as well. All right. Next one is from Core Finder. Hi, I am binge watching your videos to get the courage to book a cruise. To be honest, I'm fully going for the sex. Being on a boat with a bunch of gay and horny dudes sounds like so much fun to me. And then they have some follow-up questions as well. It's a few of them. First one is, where do you hook up? So you hook up in the privacy of a stateroom. It could be your stateroom. It could be their stateroom. You know, if someone in a stateroom is hosting some sort of get-together, if you will, then you can do it there. Pretty much any stateroom that you have the permission to be in is fine. The dick deck, I've talked about once before, more than once. I've talked about a few times before. The dig deck is basically a place on usually one of the upper decks that is open on kind of in the early hours, kind of roughly the time when the nighttime party is going, maybe from roughly like midnight-ish, give or take, onto for the next few hours from that point on, probably into like the early morning hours. Kind of depends on the attendance and how rowdy that particular cruise is. That's also another place where you can go and get some, if you will. I don't know where I picked up the click from. The clicking means action, right? Anyways, I don't know where I picked that up from, but I'm trying to refer to action. Anyways, the thing I want to say about the dig deck is, and it's kind of like a dark, publicly accessible area that's like it's a little bit of a secluded area, but it is kind of like a public area in the sense that anyone can like go there, and they dim the lights, and then it's specifically for action. What I will say about the dig deck is, don't bet on there being a dig deck on every single cruise, because I have been on cruises where they didn't have the dig deck because, for example, the crew of the ship didn't want it. And if the crew of the ship, especially like the captain, don't want it, it's never going to happen. It's like if the captain says no, captain basically has final say about anything that happens on the ship. I have been on ships before where they didn't have it. Atlantis, I know they try to have it as much as possible, but you see that they never advertise it, and it's never written down anywhere that they have a dig deck. And on most of the Atlantis cruise I've been on, they don't even announce it. It's like not talked about, kind of partially for the reason that they can't really guarantee to have that on every single cruise. So they don't advertise it as a feature of an Atlantis cruise. It's a little bit of like a slight gray area for them. So, but even if there's not the dig deck, honestly, when you're on a cruise of like thousands of gay men, and there are like many hundreds of staterooms, like go to your room, go to their room, go to someone's stateroom, like you'll be fine. Second question is, if I have a roommate, do we have to come to some sort of arrangement, or are there 24/7 sex spots I can pop into when needed? There are no like sex spots except for like the dig deck, which I just talked about. So yeah, just come to an arrangement. It's pretty easy. If you're gonna have a roommate, especially on a gay cruise, people are pretty like sex positive. So even if you got matched to like a random roommate, which Atlantis does have a program for, they're probably gonna be supportive. And if you find a friend of yours to room with, that person's your friend. You are probably gonna be on the same page about sex and stuff like that. So you'll probably be fine. Little ways that me and my roommates have to say no, like a sock in the door, or just like write a note on the whiteboard. I talk about door decor, how you can have like a little whiteboard on the outside of your stateroom door, writing a little note, just basic things like that. And I've also had it where like me, my roommates, where depending on the person I'm rooming with, they're like, yeah, just come on in, it's MBD. So I do have like some people I room with where we're close enough where like, yeah, if I'm having sex or they're having sex, it's like they don't care. Like we could just come in. Like, like imagine if your roommate is getting it on in your room, but you really need to use the bathroom for whatever reason. It's like, it just depends on the comfort level. So just talk it over your roommate. Like I'd be very, very surprised if your roommate wasn't open to the idea of just like, just put something on the door or whatever, and then they'd be fine. Their last question is are there nude/clothing optional parts of the cruise? On most of the sea days, on most cruises, they would try to set up a clothing optional sunbathing area, usually on one of the upper decks, if there's some decks that are like a level or two above like the regular pool deck. But that's not for sex, technically. It's technically just for like nude sunbathing. You're not really supposed to like do stuff there. I've never been to that area before. Well, sunbathing is not my thing, so I don't like lounge around in the sun. I have seen the nude sunbathing areas on some of the ships I've been on before where it's available, but I can't speak to like, I mean, I've heard stories about people doing things up there, but like I feel like it's best not to think of that as a spot for action because it's not for that, and it's like broad daylight, and it's also I wouldn't try that. But that's usually the only kind of again, besides the dig deck, which we covered already, that's the only other like clothing optional part of the cruise that I know of. Okay, can I tell you something for real? Skincare is not really a sexy topic. No one's waking up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I have to take care of my skin. I know I talk a lot on the podcast, I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of advice to give. But if you don't listen to me about anything, listen to me about this. You have to take care of yourself, and you also have to take care of your skin. I believe in it so much, and I think it's such a critical thing that I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone. And you know what? Not to toot my own horn, but people are always telling me, your skin looks so good, and I can't believe how old you are. Do you know why? Because I've been taking care of my skin for many, many years. But I know, for a lot of you, skincare just sounds like another chore. But I want to make it fun. And that's where Serve Labs comes in. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. Next question. This is kind of like a joke-ish question. It's not a real question. From at Beyond View, are there any regular guys or are they all on a caloric deficit? I eat all the time. So I am not in a caloric deficit. I mean, I exercise, I move my ass and I burn calories, but like I have to eat to replenish those. So I've been on a shred in a while. The last time I went on a shred, I think was 2014, 2015, 2016. And I don't think I ever want to be on a shred before. I don't like being that skinny anymore. I used to be skinnier, but I feel like I like to have like a little more muscle on me nowadays. But I've also, a slightly more serious answer to this question is, and I don't think I've talked about this on a recent video or a podcast, but I remember doing a video like many years ago, where I was trying to address some common myths and misconceptions about gay cruises. And one of the ones I talk about is sometimes people just think there are just skinny / really fit people on a cruise, and that is only like quote unquote only pretty boys or like gym rats or whatever on a cruise. And anyone who's ever been on a cruise will tell you that that is absolutely not true. I'll leave it there. All right. And the last comment I have is from, okay, this username is not designed to be pronounced, from RMDURHA2. And I think this one's actually one that I replied from about a month-ish ago, but I thought it would be actually a good one to just repeat on the air. The alumni sales seem unfair. Every time I find out about the cruise dates, it's already sold out. Please keep us updated on the sales. So the alumni sales that is mentioned here, I'll just quickly explain for those of you that are not familiar. Atlantis, when they have a new cruise to sell, they usually put it on something which I call a alumni pre-sale. So before a new cruise goes on sale to the general public, it goes onto the public website. They will usually offer the cruise out to their alumni. So the alumni are people who have sailed with Atlantis several times before. Okay, I don't know what their technical definition of alumni is. I think it's like 3 or more or 5 or more I think then you're considered alumni. There's some people that have sailed with them like for like decades and have been on like 40, 50 cruises before. So I think internally Atlantis does have kind of maybe different tiers. So like the more cruises you've been on with Atlantis, then maybe the earlier you have access to the pre-sale for upcoming cruises. But basically there's a period where only the alumni will have access to a new cruise before the general public. So this is what we're talking about when this person says the alumni sales, where alumni get private first dibs to a new cruise before it goes on to public sale. They are saying that it seems unfair. In my experience, and I do look at the cruises, each cruise on a calendar for multiple years now at a decent number of depth, you can probably tell by the type of content and information I bring you guys earlier in this episode of the podcast. I talked about, all the different cruises. So I do kind of keep tabs on it. All the different cruises throughout the calendar year and how well they're selling and things like that. And I obviously look at cruises as they're going into alumni pre-sale, because I've done like 18 or 20 cruises with Atlantis. I'm an alumni. I get those alumni pre-sale emails and notifications. And I also look at when they go on to public sale as well. I don't think I've ever seen a cruise where it's already sold out or anywhere near sold out by the time it goes from the alumni pre-sale to the public sale. And once a cruise hits public sale, Atlantis, just part of their regular marketing, they will like do an email blast out to anyone who's on their mailing list, and you can easily just register on their mailing list on their website. Every time you go to their website, the first thing that pops up is like, register for our newsletter. So it's pretty easy for anyone to just get on Atlantis newsletter so that you do get notified when a cruise goes onto the public sale, like once it's past the alumni pre-sale stage. I think the closest I've seen a cruise get sold when it goes from the alumni pre-sale to general public sale is for some of the January, February party cruises on the big Royal Caribbean ships. Some of the years, the cruise will be, I think the worst I've seen it is that the cruise is maybe like something like 40 to 50% sold to alumni. So by the time it goes on to the public sale, roughly half the ship is already filled. But even then, when half the ship is filled, there were still lots of ocean balcony rooms available, and that's the most popular and numerous type of cabins on most cruise ships, including that one. I think they might have a limited number of interior rooms available, but usually interior rooms on that particular cruise goes really fast. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the interior rooms are gone. They would definitely still have window rooms available where they call it ocean view. I think it's the name they like to say. So you get a little window, but there's no balcony. And that's like the second least expensive type of room after the interior rooms. So interior rooms tend to sell out. Suites tend to sell out, like I mentioned before. But that's like the worst I've seen it. That's on a year where like that cruise was really, really popular and nearly half of the alumni have snapped up that cruise ship. But that's one of the largest cruise ships in the world. Usually it's over 5,000 passengers that book that cruise when it does sell out. So even if it's like half booked, there's still room for like another 2,500 guys to book that cruise. And there's still a lot of balcony rooms available and a lot of ocean view rooms available, even if the suites are always going to be sold out on almost every Atlantis cruise, no matter what anyways. Unless you really wanted a suite, in which case, like, daddy, can I get on your payroll somehow? Or, you have some kind of, I think unless you want a suite, I think I can pretty safely say you shouldn't have any trouble booking a cruise. You shouldn't have trouble. You shouldn't be worried about the alumni snapping up all the rooms. But even in like the most extreme case, I think it's like 40 to 50% of the rooms might be snapped up. But that's on like one of the biggest ships in the world. So I hope you that kind of puts your fears to bed a little bit. But as always, if you just subscribe to this podcast and listen along, I will do my best to give everybody the heads up before something sells out, as something fills up. Just like I did earlier in today's podcast, I gave you guys, hey, this cruise is going to sell out soon, or this other cruise is filling pretty nicely. This one I think is going to sell out. So just follow me, just Joey T, and then you'll be all right, and then you'll be able to book the cruises that you want to go on. Hopefully this was a helpful podcast for you guys. I have some other kind of consumer advice type of topics I want to talk about as well. One that I want to talk about is, these cruises and parties, they're not cheap, okay? The first year that I started doing circuit parties, and that's kind of how I started doing parties. I did the math on, okay, between like the travel, like the airplane tickets, between hotels, between the actual party tickets, and getting all the outfits for the party themes. The first full year that I started circuiting, and I kind of went like head first and dove into the deep end. When I add up all the costs, I remember thinking to myself, you can buy a Honda Civic for this amount of money. It was like 20 something thousand dollars that I spent like just on like when I add it all up, I was like, I can go buy a brand new car for this. So I was very shocked. So one of the things I want to talk about is, you know, how could you make your dollar go further? Or one topic I kind of want to talk about is how can you leverage miles and points to make trips and parties and cruises just a little bit cheaper? I know there's a lot of people that are really deep into miles and points. I'm kind of one of those people. I have a lot of credit cards that do points. Some would say too many. But I would also love to give some of you who are not frequent partiers or frequent travelers, you might want to take like 1 or 2 trips a year to go to like one cruise or to go to like one party. But even then, it's still a big chunk of money. So I kind of wanted to give some of you like an intro to like how you can use miles and points in like a nice, easy, beginner-friendly way to offset the cost of some of these trips and cruises just a little bit. But again, if there are any topics you would want me to talk about relating to cruises or travels or parties or whatnot, again, just comment on any of my YouTube videos that will pop up on my little YouTube dashboard. And what do you know? It could be the topic for an upcoming episode. But until next time, if you're driving, don't crash. And talk to you next time. Bye.